We are live. Good evening, everyone. I am Reverend Sherri James, and I am so excited to be here. This is the Bible Hangout. This is the Thursday night Bible study for Up Church, and this is like the highlight of my week. It is the thing that I look forward to, probably as much as I look forward to Sunday service. This in particular because I get to just sit and riff on things that I'm really interested in, and y'all seem to be interested in too, so just grateful for that. Tonight, our conversation is really aimed at the spiritual entrepreneur, and as I think about, who I'm really talking to, just, being a business owner, having been in business for myself for many years, that this conversation is really aimed at that small business owner, but not necessarily small business owner, but just a spiritual entrepreneur. And it does not mean that you have a spiritually related product, but that there is a spiritual approach to business, that you don't make a separation between what you study on, say, Sunday and what you do in your day-to-day life, that you endeavor to bring spiritual principles into every aspect of your life, including your business. And so we're going to talk about that tonight, but specifically we're going to talk about it from the perspective of courage, because we're on chapter 13 with Bruce McArthur's Your Life, which this book is amazing. Thank you, everybody who voted for it. And what it really hit me that this chapter is about, it's called Making the Right Choices for Your Life, but it's really about making the courageous choice. And as a business owner, you have many choices that you are presented with an opportunity to make on a daily, moment by moment basis. And sometimes you're just trying to get it done and you want to make the expedient choice. But when you choose to be a spiritual entrepreneur, you're essentially signing up for the higher road. And and it takes courage to walk that higher road. It's very easy to do what everybody else is doing. So this conversation tonight is for you as a spiritual entrepreneur who has chosen to take the higher road in your business. Whether you offer a spiritual product or not, you could be making widgets, you could be making press coins. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is really about the approach. And so we're going to talk about how you bring spiritual principles tonight in relation to courage into your business walk. So hopefully this discussion will help you, and will answer some questions for you about how do I integrate God beyond just praying for the success of my business. How do I bring this lifestyle, this life of living according to principle, into my business? All right, and just bear with me while I get the PowerPoint up that I didn't realize wasn't up. There it is. All right. So our question tonight is, do you have the courage to make the right choice? Do you have the courage to make the right choice? And like I said, we're on chapter 13, making the right choices for your life. And so my first question to you, just on a scale of 1 to 10, if you could just kind of rank yourself and answer the question, how courageous are you when it comes to your dreams? If you were looking at, what you do professionally, and maybe your business might still be a hobby yet, it may not be your full-time income. On a scale of 1 to 10, how courageous are you when it comes to your dreams? How courageous are you? Are you, do you go, throw everything that you have with it? Are you someone who kind of walks timidly into the next step, or I should say timidly, that sounds weak, but cautiously? You're overly cautious. Perhaps you even would say that maybe you overthink some of the things that you do. Where are you on that scale of 1 to 10? 20 seconds. Where are you when it comes to living your dreams and fulfilling your dreams and fulfilling the divine call on your life? Where are you? Are you at level 10 or above? 8 seconds. 2 seconds, and time. Anybody want to share where you are? Andrea says, I think I'm pretty courageous. Still need to grow. 7. Yes, yes, yes. If I thought about myself, I would really probably put myself at, I think I would land at about 7, 8. I know I'm not 10. I know that. I definitely don't feel that. I feel myself getting there, but I do know that there are times when I have that impulse to act and I hesitate. So Ray says I have to say 6. Constance says when I did my own business I was a 10. Now that I'm just looking to have multiple channels, I'm about 7 or 8. Andrea says 6. Yes, yes. You check the other chat. Okay, no comments there. So we're at some announcements, opening prayer. We're going to talk about why universal law matters, courage, and then we're going to talk about courage for the spiritual entrepreneur, and then Q&A, and of course, ask questions throughout. Know your why. This came up for me really strongly today. I included a little bit of it in the blog post, but there's something to knowing your why. And what was I watching? I consume so much personal development stuff now. It's all kind of blending together. So I'm not sure if this was Brendan Burchard or if this was Tom Bilyeu. But one of the things that he said is that, you know what, it was Tom Bilyeu because they were talking to Moran Cerf, who was a neuroscientist. And one of the things that he said in the conversation is that there's a reason that they call it home court advantage, that there's something that happens when you are on the home court, that you have this energy, you're playing for your true fans as opposed to, the one or two, not one or two, but it seems like it when you're on the road. When you're on the road, it's just they're rooting for the other team. They're not rooting for you. But there's also a reason that you perform better when your mom is in the audience. That there's something that happens when you have a reason why. And my why for this Thursday night, for why this goes on no matter where I am in the world, is that there was a woman named Mary Tumpkin, and I'll bring up her picture. There was a woman named Mary Tumpkin, and I never heard of her, didn't know who she was. And I walked into a conference expecting to hear one speaker who wasn't there. And it turned out to be Mary Tumpkin, who was the guest speaker in her place. And I was so grumpy because I thought I came to hear Reverend Johnny, and they put Reverend Mary, and I don't know who she is, and I don't care to hear her because I came to hear Reverend Johnny. Opened her mouth, and I have never been the same. And just the way that she teaches, the way that she communicates, really opened up a new dimension in me. It really put me on the path that I'm on today. And I would like to be that for someone else. The way that she spoke, the way that she taught, the way that she communicated, it lifted a veil on my eyes, walked me into a new dimension that I didn't even know was there. And so I study, I prepare, I come at this like a full-time job because I want to do for you what she did for me. And I know that if you open up and walk into that next dimension, there are untold blessings, not just for you, but for everyone in your sphere of influence. Because there are people who, as much as I think that I'm a great teacher, are never going to hear me. Meaning not just because they wouldn't be in my vicinity, but the way that I communicate, the way that I share, they're just not going to hear it. It's not for me to teach them or to share with them, but they're going to hear you. And so I want to equip you and give you the tools to communicate to them that there are no limits on their lives, save for the limits that they put on themselves. And so that is my sincere prayer for everything that we do. And I'm so grateful for Reverend Mary and for her life and just everything that she meant. And so this is why I show up every Thursday night. It is free, but it does cost. And so if this is beneficial to you, and if you want to see this go beyond just the group that we are communicating with now and be able to reach other people, it's going to take resources to do that. Bless you, and you want to participate in the exchange that we're having tonight, then feel free to make a gift at revsherry.com, and a gift of any size is greatly appreciated. It makes a difference, and I want to let you know that I appreciate it, and thank you very much. So this series has three parts. There's the blog, there's the Bible Hangout, and there is also the Universal Law Library. And the blog comes out on Thursdays, and thank you everybody for your comments. Got some great comments today. Really appreciate that. In fact, one of them I want to highlight because it really just touched me. Patricia said, I'm bringing up the comment. She said, I really enjoyed your blog today. To be honest, I haven't been reading this or anything else lately to improve me or my life. I sought this out several months ago to find out how to think right. Anyway, I will use prayer as my daily go-to device to improve my life. Thank you, Sherri James. You make a lot of sense. And today's blog came at me just at the right time. I sometimes pray, but I think I don't really know how, and I feel needy and undeserving of any spiritual consideration. And that touched me so deeply because it took me back to 2002 before I learned to pray. Now, I had grown up in the church, but I can't tell you that I necessarily knew how to pray. And so just hearing her say that really took me back, and I responded and shared, that where the way that I learned to pray and to communicate with God was really through a technique that was shared by Catherine Ponder in her book, Prospering Power of Love. And it was such a game-changing experience because she talked about writing to the higher self of another person and of yourself. And I started doing that, and it became addictive. And so every morning for about 5 or 6 years, from about 2002 to 2007, every morning, pretty much without exception, I got up and I sat with God and I wrote to God as my means of communication. And I didn't even know to call it prayer. I can't even remember exactly when I started calling it prayer, because at the time it was just, I was writing this letter to God and it felt good. But, I didn't know that was a way to pray. And her comment really just put me back in that space of just, seeking, but not knowing what to ask for, and not, knowing where to reach, and now being on the other side of it, I know that if you just keep reaching, that the Spirit will meet you at your point of limitation and carry you into where you want to go. Thank you, Andrea. Andrea says you have succeeded. You are my Reverend Dr. Mary Tompkins. Yay! I wish you had known her. She was just, you can see it a little bit in the videos, but I promise you nothing matches hearing her in person, because she was so irreverent and didn't suffer fools, So she was, say something from the pulpit like, just, I can't believe that mess, And you're like, oh my God, why do I believe that mess? But it was like she would shake ignorance out of you. That's what it felt like. It felt like she would come to church, and metaphorically, she would pick you up and turn you upside down and shake the ignorance out of you. It was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So some of you may not know this, but I also do spiritual mentoring. And I work with people one-on-one to become the people whose dreams come true. This is it's one of the most satisfying things that I do, and it's one-on-one. And if you're interested, I encourage you to reach out to me and let's talk about it. And I have had many success stories. And one of the things that I'm really proud of, because I've been, I work on me so I can support you. And so as much as I am mentoring you, I'm also out being mentored by others. I also am breaking through to my own next level. And one of the things that I feel really good about, and I feel like I'm really getting a handle on and I'm offering, is really being able to crack that barrier between prayer and action. You know, that you can pray about something, but until you're taking action on it, it really is still in the potential stage. And where I am getting really good at and am available to support you in is crossing that bridge between having it be part of your prayer versus having it be part of your daily action, and taking those minute, seemingly insignificant steps that take you all the way through to your breakthrough. And so if you're interested in breaking through your next level, I'm available for that. And so reach out to me at revsherri.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you. The scripture for this series is, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill." And that's Matthew 5:17. And let's just take a moment to just relax. We have an awesome, awesome lesson in front of us, and I just ask the Spirit to move through us right now and reveal to us everything that we need to know for this lesson. I thank you, God, for everything that you are doing in, through, and as us right now. I thank you for every breakthrough, every transformation, and I ask that whatever has been prepared, that everything that we do be done for your glory. In the name and nature of Jesus, it is so. So it is. So let's jump in. Why universal law matters for you. So the courage you need to do what you've been called to do will be developed in you when you cooperate with universal law. The reason that you have goals, is that there is someone that you become along the way. It almost doesn't matter what goal you're reaching for, so long as you're reaching for something. Because there is a refining process that happens when you begin to reach beyond where you are now. In order to be more than who you are at this moment, you're going to have to make some different choices, because the choices that you've made have put you in the place where you are now. So the choices are going to have to change if you want to change. It's going to require courage. It's going to require, you don't need courage if you don't have any goals. But that's not the community that I speak to anyway. I find that the people that come to me have goals, but don't necessarily, may need some help reaching for their goals. But I don't really, it seems to me that the people who hear my voice already have goals and really are looking to get to the next level. So you understand the power of goals, and you understand the value of setting a specific intention of where you want to go. And what is so important about having a goal, even a small goal, but certainly I encourage you to have a big goal, but even a small goal, that there's something that has to change in you in order for that goal to come about. And so it's not even so much of going for the big house or the big car or the accomplishments in business or whatever you're reaching for. I don't know. I'm just speaking, right? Whatever it is that your goal, fitness goals or other lifestyle goals or personal goals. I heard something that I thought was so beautiful. I went to a presentation earlier this week, and one of the speakers at the presentation said, I've never really believed in collecting things. I believe in collecting moments. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I just love that. It was like, I believe in collecting moments. And so when I look back at the pictures and all of the places where I've been, and the presentation happened to be in this person's home, and it totally fit because they're pictures of their family all across the wall. And you could see all of these collected moments, right, that had been collected over time. It doesn't really matter what it is that you're reaching for, right? It's that you're reaching for something, and the reaching for something is going to compel you to change in order to have it. That for her to become the person who collects moments, she has to be the one to create the moment. That she has to turn into that person that creates moments. And there's a becoming process to doing that. And so whatever it is that you're going to do is going to take some level of courage. To get your kids out of the house and into college, it's going to take courage. To go back to school is going to take courage. To apply for that promotion is going to take courage. To, how about this? To improve your relationship, if it's not in the place where you want it to be, it's going to take courage. And what happens is with universal law, if you will begin to work with universal law through that process, meaning law being a synonym for God, if you will begin to work with God the way that God works, meaning through thought, that there is a transformation that will happen in you that will awaken and develop and cultivate the courage in you that you didn't even know was there. Because one of the things that is a challenge with courage is that we look at other people and it looks like, oh my God, they're so bold, they're so courageous. But courage is not a character trait. Courage is a skill. Hear that. Really, really, like, catch that. That courage is not a character trait. It's a skill. And so defined, courage is the ability to do something that frightens you. So to display strength in the face of pain or grief. But we've been studying universal law, so we know that nothing just happens. Everything happens just. That the person who, quote unquote, surprises themselves and displays some great level of strength, that great level of strength didn't just come out of nowhere. We have to let go of this idea. Life unfolds according to law. Nothing just happens. Everything happens just. And so the ability to do something that frightens you or to display strength in the face of pain or grief does not just happen. In times of great stress, we do not rise to the level of our hopes or even our aspirations. Instead, we fall to the level of our training. What have we been doing every day? What kind of mental muscle have we been building? Life is the experience of our choices, and so courage is built through making courageous choices every day. But let's get clear on what these courageous choices are, right? Because sometimes we think of courageous choices as standing up to the bully or, asserting yourself at work. And those are courageous choices. But how about just not hitting the snooze button? If you've been in the habit of hitting the snooze button, it might be that the most courageous thing you can do is to not hit the snooze button tomorrow morning. If you have not been in a habit of health, maybe the most courageous thing you can do tomorrow is to eat more in alignment with what supports your body and nourishes your body. If you have not been taking care of yourself, when I went through, I was never diagnosed depressed, but if I look back at myself, I can say, probably if a medical professional saw me, a mental health professional saw me, they may say that I was depressed. But there were times when I just didn't want to get out of bed and didn't feel like taking a bath. And so basically, I got dressed or got gussied up when I knew I had to go out and be seen. I had enough things in my life that forced me to have to get out of bed. But if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. And so maybe the most courageous thing you could do is just get out of bed. So it's to realize that the courage that allows you to make the bold move, the courage that Reverend Della displayed when she took on CBS because they weren't paying her the way that they were paying the other stars of the show. That wasn't a one-time thing. That act of courage to put her career on the line and demand the type of money that she felt like she was worthy, which was just exactly what everybody else was earning. That type of courage is built through everyday acts of courage. And so if we let go of living for the big moments of life and just really master the little moments and do the most courageous thing you can do right now, that you will be prepared when life gives you the big moments. that it won't be the thing that you shrink from. And shrinking from problems is a habit. Shrinking from problems is a habit. So you have to find opportunities where you stand up to the little things so that the big things become easier to handle. I'm going to check for comments. Okay, y'all quiet in the chat. Is the chat on? I got comments. I gotta read. That's all right. Y'all quiet tonight. So be it. So this is about courage for the spiritual entrepreneur, and I specifically focus on this group because to take a spiritual approach to business, I think it's just, you got to be courageous. That's just the bottom line. As a spiritual entrepreneur, you have dared to believe that you can generate profit as well as make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve. And so everything you do, especially the way that you do it, infuses your product or service with an energy that your customers and clients feel. Even if they can't articulate the feeling in words, but everything you do does that. And so every day you've got to make choices as to how you spend your time, how you allocate your resources, how you deploy your people. Bruce says in the book, he says in chapter 13, behind each choice presented to us is this basic question: will I do it the way I have chosen in the past, or will I choose a higher way, that of the spirit within me? And another way to ask that question of yourself is, what's the most courageous choice I can make in this moment? When I'm sitting and I'm deciding how I'm going to move through my day and the things that I have to accomplish in the day, what's the most courageous thing I can do? Sometimes the most courageous thing, just not being funny, is to not pull up social media and try to look at social media while I'm working. Sometimes the most courageous thing that I can do is not respond to somebody else's anger. I have found in leadership that sometimes people, what's the word? They respect your position, but they also find themselves in a place where they need to tell you something, and they may not have the nicest language to tell you. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to hold your tongue instead of responding in anger. So if we wish to change our companies and increase the impact we make, then we got to change our choices, our daily moment by moment choices. If our level of consciousness has not changed since the last time we made a choice, there's not going to be a change in the result. Every day you're faced with the same choices in terms of how you pay your bills, in terms of how you handle your staff or your team. Each day you have those kinds of things that you've got to do. How you meet your deadlines, how you manage your week, right? Because you got X number of things that have to be done. How you send in your invoices, or however your income stream flows, right? And so if there has been no growth, then you show up making the same choices. You get into the same patterns day after day after day. And so as a spiritual entrepreneur, we have an obligation to make the courageous choice. Do not simply claim to be led by something higher. Actually be led by something higher. That means reach within. Reach within. When you're sitting and doing that work on your company, what's the highest and best way that I can do this? What is the best way that I can show up for my company, for my people, for the people that I serve? What is it? How can I do that? The other thing that we have to get to is to let go of this idea of a zero-sum approach to business. This is the craziest thing, right? Because here's what the zero sum is. It means that everything reduces to zero. It means that somebody has to lose in order for somebody else to win, that there are as many pluses as there are minuses. That's what the term zero sum means. And it takes courage to rely on divine power within us rather than trying to gain, develop, acquire, or use our own power or influence others on our behalf who seem to have power. We have a promise we can stand on, and this is from God in Jeremiah 30:22. You shall be my people, and I will be your God. See, from a worldly standpoint, there are winners and losers. And that kind of mindset believes that for one entity to gain market share, somebody else has got to lose it. The idea that the marketplace could expand cannot find a home in this kind of mindset. When we approach business with a mentality that someone must lose, then we try to manipulate or control others. We put our faith in what is going on around us and believe that is all we have. Now, so that you know that this is not just airy-fairy stuff, I want to refer you to a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean Strategy. Great book to get, because what she talks about in this book is a Harvard professor. There's a lot of research in there, so you have to read it when you're awake, when you got a lot of life inside of you. I'm writing this book. So in Blue Ocean Strategy, what she talks about is that in most business markets, things become like a commodity, right? Where it's about slashing prices and beating the other guy out, and so you're just trying to beat your opponent. But in a blue, and she uses the Blue Ocean Strategy that in that kind of environment, it's like sharks eating sharks, right? You're swimming with the sharks, and so you are. There's blood everywhere. But the Blue Ocean Strategy is that you begin to look at the landscape of your marketplace and begin to see the need that is not being met. And you go and you meet that need for the people that you're serving. And it's blue ocean because there are no other sharks in your ocean. And so there is a mindset. This is not just airy-fairy stuff, that there are approaches that are not zero-sum approaches, and you can find them. But again, you've got to agree that there's more than enough to spare and to share. That's got to be your premise. That's got to be your premise. You may not be able to see it consciously in the moment, how there's more than enough to spare and to share, because you might be in a commodity driven, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but you may be in an industry where what you're offering is a commodity, and you may not see your way out of that space just yet. But if you can hold to the idea that there is a way out, then you can be drawn to the way that your company can serve, that doesn't put you swimming with the sharks, but gives you a wide open blue ocean that is entirely yours to serve. So we've got to reject this idea and really dare to turn to the creator of all. And we've got to courageously attune ourselves to the source of life within, knowing that every business problem we face has a divine solution. And if we quiet our minds, we can hear the right direction. And so I don't buy the idea of winners and losers. I can turn to my inner resource of all wisdom, all good, and all abundance. You've also got to have the courage to say yes to God. Now, I want to be clear. Being a spiritual entrepreneur is not about being an entrepreneur who believes in God. You actually might not believe in God and be a spiritual entrepreneur. That's another conversation. But you can be a believer who does not operate like a spiritual entrepreneur. There are lots of people who do it. The decision to be a spiritual entrepreneur turns on your approach to life and business in general. Are you willing to accept yourself as divine and approach all that you do as the god or goddess that your birthright offers you? Are you willing to take the high road when it does not benefit you or your bottom line? And the thing is, the high road is going to cost you something to take it. Do it anyway. One of the stories that came out of Hurricane Harvey was the story of Mattress Mac. When the hurricane hit, he immediately opened his doors to anyone who could safely get to him. And in one of the, when I was researching him, in one of the broadcasts that cover him, they revealed that it's going to cost him upwards of $30,000 to $40,000 each day that the people occupy his showroom. And he knew that they could potentially be there for weeks on end. But for him, there was no other option but to be available to people and provide for people. The high road is going to cost you something, and it's certainly going to challenge you. But you can take that road as a spiritual entrepreneur because you know that as we put spirit first, we will be cared for. You can move with an unflappable sense of expectancy that my business will be provided for. I'm not here simply to make a profit. At the same time, my giving shall prosper me. And so you don't have to fear the cost of saying yes to God. You don't have to fear the cost of taking the high road. You don't have to fear the cost of doing what is right. As a spiritual entrepreneur, you need the courage to believe in infinite supply. This is a direct quote from McArthur that I'm going to read to you. It's the full quote of that first bullet point. He says, if you make the great choice for the high road, the only requirement is that you attune yourself to the Spirit of God instead of to the illusory world of the spirit of the world. Along with that requirement goes a better guarantee than you can get anywhere. A guarantee of an infinite supply of all that you need. It is the law of supply. And this is what it says. Seek first the Spirit within, and all shall be added you have need of. Now, that is big talk. That is big talk. But the thing is that whatever you accept in your conscious mind becomes your belief, and it governs your experience. Most people cannot fathom the idea of unlimited supply. They look at what exists and they say this is all there is. And because they cannot believe it, it never finds expression in their lives, even though it's a reality of our universe. The mind will believe whatever you give it to pay attention to. We think that belief is hard to develop, right? We think that we've been believing in a particular direction, and so that it will be tough in some way to change that belief and to begin to think in a different direction. But the mind naturally forms belief. Naturally forms belief. It's how we're wired. So if you begin to pay attention to infinite supply and the way that infinite supply is showing up, and you make that what the mind pays attention to, you will begin to develop feeling around that. And eventually those thoughts and those feelings will marry and harden into belief. And so it's a matter of what do you pay attention to? What gets your attention? Who has your attention? What has your attention? Because that is what gets your belief. And so at the end of the day, it is looking and saying, for every hour on the hour, who won, the world or God, as far as my mind is concerned? At the end of the hour, who won? If of the 60 minutes, did at least 31 go to God or some aspect of God in terms of infinite supply? Or am I balanced in the other direction where the world, my attention on the lack, the limitation, all of the constraints of the physical world, is that what got the bulk of my attention in this 60-minute period? And so this is just, simple majority here. Go for the win for God. Can you give 31 of the 60 minutes to God or some aspect of God? Well, how did I do that? I got a board meeting. Okay. Can you be in a state of peace? If a board meeting is an hour, can 31 of those 60 minutes be in a state of peace and in a state of infinite possibility? Andrea says, yes, the more of the goodness and abundance of God I see, the more blessings and multiple forms seem to come to me. Yes, because this is a magnification thing. And so you might need to get down to nuts and bolts, like 31 minutes to God. Did I win the hour? That, did I win? Did I sit in that space of infinite possibility? That's really it. Did I sit in that space? And did I do that for more time than I did the opposite? And then over the course of a day, did I do that for more of the hours in the day than I did the opposite? I mean, you can win like this. You you just need to give the majority to God. If you give the majority to God, eventually you'll tip the scale. I want to get this last point in. The courage to believe in infinite supply starts by paying attention to all the little ways that infinite supply shows up. So the scripture says, don't despise the day of small beginnings. And the reason you don't despise the day is that if you will start to pay attention to the small beginnings, those beginnings will grow because your attention is a magnifier. Whatever you give your attention to, you begin to form belief around and you will magnify. And so the courage to believe in infinite supply starts with just paying attention to it. How did infinite supply show up today? Oh, I went to the gym and a young lady offered me a free workout. The trainer at the gym. How did infinite supply show today? Oh, you know what? Today I went to drop my child off at school, and the teacher gave me a praise report about my child. And it's the little ways that infinite supply is showing up. And you begin to pay attention to those things. Oh, I got an unexpected comment on the blog. What are those things? The little ways. And the courage to pay attention to the little ways as opposed to brush them off, which is what we normally do, will begin to build that bigger courage where you can sit in the face of a $5,000 expense unflinching, even though you don't know where the resources are coming from. I heard this the other day that the guy who did the X Prize, do you guys know who that is? I don't know. The guy who created the X Prize, that he offered the X Prize before he had the money. He offered the X Prize before he had the money. He just believed that that the money would come. But he offered the prize before he actually had the money to back up the prize. But he believed so much in the idea. There are ways of operating where if you will just begin to put one foot in front of the other, whether the resources are there or not, that you have seen the end, and when you have seen the end, you have willed the means of the end to come about. And so you just have to reach for it. You have to, if you just reach for it, if you will reach for it, all bets are off. It's yours. It's yours. If you will reach for it with an unstinting, unrelenting fervor, you cannot be denied. This is what's available to the spiritual entrepreneur. This is what's available to us. Number 5, the courage to seek God in our businesses. So I think it's worth mentioning that I see personal development and spiritual development as synonymous. I really don't think of them as separate because everything I do to develop myself personally is for the purpose of expressing God more fully in my life, world, and affairs. So the work that I do to write better blogs or deliver better content allows me to positively influence more people to wake up to their innate divinity. The work that I do to understand how to run a business and to build a church enables me to build a church. I mean, for me, personal development and spiritual development are one and the same. And the difference being that I see all of it from my perspective as coming from God, even though the channel might be Think and Grow Rich or the 5-second rule, or the channel might be some person who is demonstrating in a particular area or demonstrating in a particular area. But I see all of it as the divine communicating with me, giving me the tools that I need to do what then I've been called to do. So this courage to seek God in our business, it really comes from understanding that even if I make a non-spiritual related product, I'm still a representative of the infinite good in the world. And the people I serve depend upon me to deliver the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service in whatever capacity I serve. And so I make it a priority to seek God in my business. I make it a priority. But here's the bigger thing. So Bruce says you seek the spirit just as you seek a station on your radio or television set. You tune into the frequency, into the vibration. Tech entrepreneur Mae McCarthy shares her technique for seeking God in her business, and I thought this was so ingenious. When she built her company's org chart, she listed herself as CEO, Chief Executive Officer, of course. But she put another position above the CEO, and that was the CSO. And the CSO is the Chief Spiritual Officer, and that position belongs to God. And every morning she conducts a meeting with the CSO to go over the business of the day and to decide the priorities for the company. And so she's written a book that you can use to learn more about her meetings with the CSO, as well as other things. She talks about it, the Path to Wealth. It's an excellent book, and I've recommend it. And you can find it on Amazon. But with the CSO, she's meeting every morning, and there is a conversation that's happening between her and God. So what that can look like, because I'm a journaler, so what that can look like is journaled letters between me and my CSO. You need a CSO. You need you may be the head of whatever your company is, the CEO of your company, but who are you taking your orders from? When we talk about the structure of a church, that the senior minister is the head of the church, but God is the head of the senior minister. And that the senior minister is always reaching and keeping himself or herself connected to God, because you never want to run off and operate in your own power. You always want to be moving in alignment with the divine spirit of God inside of you. And the only way to do that is check in with God. Am I going in the right direction? Am I thinking the way you want me to think about this? Andrea says, I love the realization of our faith being a magnet. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Super quiet tonight, but that's all right. So I want to close tonight by talking about pathways for developing courage, because I've given you kind of what this courage is, but I want to give you some specific things. I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do every day. And the reason I say every day is because we are made or we are unmade by the things that we do every day. And if you want to see real change in your life, and I mean real change, where you're not questioning about whether or not I'm changing, you're changing, then it is going to be about what you do every day. And I always have to go back to credit this book, The Slight Edge, which I love and recommend, Jeff Olson. And he said something, because I'm a principle girl. You give me the principle, I can work the principle. And what he said is that life curves, that everything in this universe curves, that the ground on where you stand right now, it appears to be flat, but it's not. And if you could look at it, the ground where you stand, from the right vantage point, that you would be able to see the curvature on the piece of earth where you now sit or stand. That principle of curvature repeats across the entire universe. And so the reason that you cannot see the curvature of your life right now is because you're sitting inside of September 28th, 2017. But if you had a high enough vantage point, if you could get up the way that you could from an earthly perspective in a hot air balloon or whatever, but if you could get up high enough, you would be able to see the direction that you were curving in your life. The other thing about our universe is that there are no straight lines and nothing stands still. So you're either curving up, getting better, or you're curving down, getting worse. There is no in between. And I got that long before I got to him, because that was Reverend Mary. Remember, this universe does not stand still. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. But all right, Reverend Mary, I got it. But what determines whether or not you're getting better or you're getting worse is what do you do every day. And so your daily actions, your success or your failure, will be found in the daily routine. Now, these 5 things that I want to give you, the first one is meditation. And one of the benefits, there's plenty of benefits to meditation, it lowers the blood pressure, corrects all kinds of things, whatever. But the reason I want to highlight meditation is because what it teaches you to do is to withdraw your attention at will. Hear that. You have the ability to withdraw your attention at will. Why is that important? Because sometimes when the mind finds a focal point, it wants to stay on that focal point. And in order to to pay attention to the things that are important and move your business forward, sometimes you're going to have to wrest your attention from the things that are not profitable. And what meditation gives you the ability to do is to withdraw your attention at will. And so instead of rubbernecking at the problems in your life, the way that we do when we see an accident on the freeway, where we just can't help it. We drive by and we can't help but look. That what meditation teaches you to do is to withdraw your attention at will. And instead of rubbernecking on the problems of life, to intentionally give your attention to infinite supply. The reason that we do not know how to make decisions based upon infinite supply is because we don't know how to pull our attention away from lack and limitation long enough to see something better. And so meditation helps you develop this skill to be able to withdraw your attention from lack and limitation long enough to recognize it for the lie that it is. The second thing, daily action, prayer. I'm making a distinction between prayer and meditation. Meditation being about the management of your attention. Prayer is about communion with God. That it is your only avenue for lasting inner change. That's the old talk, but it's true. In the absence of prayer, we show up for life in the way we've always shown up for life. We make the same kinds of choices over and over and over again. But when we resolve to meet our CSO, our Chief Spiritual Officer, every morning, we have an opportunity to ask for the courage to make the highest choice we can make at every point in our day. That just does not happen in the absence of prayer, not in any kind of lasting way. You want lasting change. And when you pray, you commune with God. And when you come into the communion, the common union with God, the fire of God literally burns off some of your bad habits. That's literally what happens. And so that prayer is a cleansing process, because only that which is like God can stand in the presence of God. And so as you reach for the divine within yourself, you literally, the dross is burned off. And the more you reach for communion with God, the more the Spirit cleans you up. So the potter wants to put you back together again only if you show up for your morning meeting. Auto suggestion. Before you go to sleep each night, take a few minutes to program yourself to receive the answers to your most pressing business questions. About 5 minutes before you drift off to sleep, your conscious mind is at its least active and lowest ability to block any suggestion that you make to the deeper mind, which is your subconsciousness. So this is the time to talk to yourself. And so before you go to sleep, say to yourself, thank you, Spirit, for the answer to whatever the problem is that you're dealing with. Or, you know what, God, tomorrow is going to be an awesome day. Program yourself for that. You know what, God, I'm going to get the best rest of my life. I thank you, God, for the answer to whatever it is that I'm dealing with. But this auto suggestion, those 5 minutes before you go to sleep are potent. It's almost like magic moments, because your conscious mind is super inactive and it is the least able to object to anything that you say. So you could say, you know, when you're in an active state, this is one of the challenges that comes up with affirmations. When you're in an active state, it is challenging to make an affirmation to yourself, especially one that contradicts what your current situation looks like. So you may say the affirmation, I am rich. And instead of it actually being effective, it actually brings up all of your stuff. Your conscious mind looking around you and saying, no, you're not. No, I can see you're not rich. And so it's almost like you end up doing more harm. You would do better to do things like just to utter the words wealth, success, so that you don't bring up any opposition within yourself, right? And you're not at odds with yourself, not fighting yourself. But with this 5 minutes before you go to bed, it is at this moment that that conscious mind is the least active, and you're in this kind of drowsy state, not yet sleep, but just kind of drowsy state. You're still relatively conscious. And at that moment, you can say, I am rich, and it is so. And if you will do that over time consistently, you can program your mind for success, for whatever you want. Service to others. Something magical happens when you give. You open another dimension in yourself. And so you can build into your work day, a spirit of giving, and you will find yourself open in a way you never imagined possible. And think of this in really simple ways. You could send someone a nice note. You can send them an encouraging video. You can write a recommendation, make a phone call. I mean, there's some really simple things that you can do. Of course, volunteering is always going to be satisfying. So, you know, that may not be able to fit into your workday, but what kind of act of kindness can you do during your day that will serve another person? Because the pathway to happiness is to make somebody else happy. There is nothing like it. If you elect to make somebody else happy, you can be assured of your own happiness. And then finally, define your why. Define your why. And I mentioned this earlier, but when you know why you do, what you do, and how you do it takes on a new energy. When you know why you do what you do, what you do, and how you do it takes on a new energy. And as I mentioned, there's a reason that teams play better on the home court, because they're playing for their fans, their true fans. Or that you perform better when your mom or your husband or your girlfriend or whomever is in the audience. And so one of the things that I'm recommending you do is that between every transition during your day, right, so you're moving from one activity to the next. Maybe you're doing some prospecting in the morning to drum up your business, but maybe in the afternoon you've got proposals to write. Don't just go from the prospecting to the proposal with no break in between. Actually take a few moments, just set a timer like 2 minutes, 60 seconds, 120 seconds, and clarify why you're doing what you do. Just clarify it. You know, you can do that before you go to the gym in the morning. Just take, before you jump into the workout or before you get out of the car, why am I doing this? Why am I doing? And you just bring it to mind, because just this little change will shift everything for you. Most people feel exhausted at the end of the day, but largely it's because they don't manage the transitions during their day very well. And so they do get to the end of the day and feel like crap. And so if you will take a moment to define your why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? And get clear on that, it changes the energy with which you show up. And finally, go be courageous. Go be courageous. What I hope is that I've demystified courage and certainly proved to you that it is not a character trait, but a skill that you can learn. And really what it's going to be is for you to start to make simple, courageous choices today. What the most courageous choice you can make might be going to bed on time. Or it might be saying something kind to your spouse before you go to bed. Condition yourself for the big moments of life when you have to face what frightens you. And you do that by practicing standing firm in the face of whatever arises right now. As a spiritual entrepreneur, you have consciously chosen the tougher path. Not that the path itself is tough. What makes it tough is that it calls for you to show up differently than other entrepreneurs. The low road may be easier to find, and it certainly is going to be well worn. But the spiritual entrepreneur dares to take the high road. And so that's what's in front of us. That's what's in front of us. We dare to take the high road. And so I want to remind you that in times of great stress, we don't rise to the level of our hopes or even our aspirations. We fall to the level of our training. And so know that you can be courageous, but be honest with yourself about what you have been doing every day. Have you been showing up courageously? If you think about the way that you've been showing up, what kind of mental muscle have you been building? And then most importantly, are you willing to make the choice for the high road? Thank you so much for tonight. If this has been a blessing to you, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe so that you can be a part of this community and know some of those other things that we're doing. And certainly leave a comment, because that helps other people find this material. And if this has blessed you, please share this with someone who you know that this would be a blessing for. Really, really appreciate that. Any questions? Thank you, Constance. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Good. Andrea says, wonderful class, one that I will review again and again. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for tonight. Next week, we are on chapter 14. And chapter 14 is all the answers. Woo. All the answers. Okay. I guess I'll have all the answers next week. That's the name of the chapter. I am certainly not coming like that. Thank you, guys. Have a beautiful night. I will see you guys next week. Take care.